Hey, what's going on? Nick Digilio, that's me. How you doing? Exciting! Just unveiled the new logo for my new podcast, which is going to premiere in just a few weeks on Radio Misfits Network, the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Check it out. Really cool logo. I posted it on Facebook and all over the place and on Twitter. The podcast is going to drop and debut just a few weeks. Sven Gulli, Rich Codes, is going to be my first guest. Check me out on Patreon. It's a great way to help out. Give a little dough. It helps me to keep going. Helps with the podcasts. Also helps with videos and reviews and more stuff that I do, more content. And if you become a patron on my patreon.com/NickD page, $3 a month, $9 a month, $5 a month, whatever you want to choose, you will get not only access to videos and cool things like that, but much more bonus content, including the real story of what went down at WGN, not all the lies that have been on social media and all the other crap that's been going on. So I'm just clearing that up, but only for patrons on my Patreon page. And thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. Okay, I just got back from seeing P.T. Anderson's Licorice Pizza. My third time seeing it. And it's one of the very best movies of the year. I love Paul Thomas Anderson. If you know me at all, he's my favorite filmmaker on the planet. He directed my favorite movie ever, Magnolia. And I love his movies, and Licorice Pizza is magnificent. It is great. It continues the stretch of incredible, unbelievable masterpieces that Paul Thomas Anderson has made. It was my third time seeing it, but my first time seeing it in 70 millimeter. Yes, a 70 millimeter print is being shown at the beautiful Music Box Theater. And it was a great experience. And I just wanted to cut this quick video here to give a shout out to the Music Box Theater. We are lucky in Chicago to have the Music Box. It is a classic, old school, beautiful movie palace right in the middle of the city. It's in the middle of Wrigleyville, as they call it now. I grew up in that area. It wasn't called Wrigleyville then. It's in Lakeview. And it's a beautiful theater that has an interesting history. And it is currently being run by incredible owners and unbelievable people who really give a shit about movies. They really care. They care about cinema. They care about the experience of it. And it shows in the way they run the theater, in the way they program it, in their dedication to film and cinema and the great movie-going experience that everybody really loves and cherishes. And they do a magnificent job. As a movie lover since birth, as a film critic, as a supporter of the arts, I think sometimes I take it for granted that we have a place like the Music Box that we can go to, and it's so easy to get to, and it's right in the middle of the city, and they do such great work there. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the Music Box Theater. That's what this video is about. And the Music Box Theater it opened in 1929 as a 750 seat house. You know, the beautiful like clouds and stars in the auditorium on the ceiling. Didn't have a balcony. It was not considered one of the huger movie palaces. You can go uptown, to the Uptown Theater. And these theaters that had 2,000-3,000 seats in them. So the Music Box was considered relatively small, but a beautiful theater nonetheless. The design was beautiful and classic. Opened in 1929. Ran silent movies. It was actually, the big hype when it first opened was that it was a soundy theater. It was going to run talkies. That was kind of the big thing. Although they did bring in, later on, the beautiful pipe organ, which they have now, and you can, partake in that. They do silent film festivals there and all kinds of stuff. But now when I was growing up in the 70s, I lived in Lakeview. It wasn't Wrigleyville then. And it was a shitty neighborhood when I grew up in the 70s. It was a shitty neighborhood. Everybody, Wrigleyville, it's so cool and hip, and it costs $8 million to buy a house there now, and if you rent a condo or an apartment there, you're going to pay like $2,500 a month, $3,000 a month just to live in that area. When I lived in Wrigleyville, when it wasn't Wrigleyville, and I lived there in the 70s, it was a shitty neighborhood filled with gangbangers and drug dealers, and you could walk out and get your ass kicked at any time. I live west of Ashland. It was east of Ashland where it got real funky. West of Ashland, it was still shaky. It was still kind of shaky, but east of Ashland, You know, right by the police station at Addison and Halsted. Very busy district right there, that police station. And the Music Box in that era became a shitty theater. It was, you know, corporately owned. They showed first-run movies, and then it became a second and third-run house. And in the 70s, when I was growing up, I didn't go there very often, even though it was within walking distance of my house. We didn't go there very often because it was a pretty shitty neighborhood, and the theater at that point in the 70s was a dump. It was really dump. They let it go. I saw a few movies there. I remember seeing Last of Sheila there and some other movies. I remember my parents, as a young kid, my parents actually got, you know, my parents took me to see everything. My dad and mom took me to see everything when I was a kid. They didn't care what it was rated. I've told this many times. I saw The Exorcist when I was 8 in the movie theater. My dad took me to see it. But we were not, my parents got a nice talking to by the ticket taker, or the ticket seller, the person working the box office, in the booth at the Music Box Theater when they tried to take me to see Bluebeard with Richard Burton. And I can't remember, but there were a bunch of ladies, and I think Raquel Welch was in it. And my parents were like, whatever, what the fuck, we don't care. It was rated R. It was about a guy who screwed a lot of women, and it had a lot of early 70s babes in it. So, you know, they didn't care. Richard Burton, Bluebeard, all right. And I remember that the woman in the ticket booth at the Music Box was like, you should not be letting your child in to see this movie. I will not sell you a ticket. Which, of course, you know, she wasn't supposed to do. You know, R-rated movies at that time, even at that time, if you're accompanied by an adult, you gotta let the kids in. You know, and there was no, like, under 6 rule at that time. Shit, people would give birth in the theater and let the kid watch an R-rated movie. But this woman would not remember. It was Bluebeard, and we couldn't see it at the Music Box. They wouldn't let us in. So my dad took me to see it at a different theater. I ended up seeing it, but the woman at the Music Box would not let me in. But in the 70s, it was a dump. It was a shitty theater. They really let it go. And one of the last movies that was shown there as a regular sort of second-run house was Damien Omen 2. I don't know really why I remember this, but I think it got shut down while Damien Omen 2 was in the middle of its run. I think, like, health inspectors went in and went, what the fuck? The place was falling apart. There were rats everywhere. It was a dump. It was an absolute shithole. So it was closed down, and then it reopened to make a little money, and they started showing porn there. Music Box, you know, you go there now, beautiful, wonderful theater. They showed porn at the Music Box for a while in the 70s, late 70s. They showed Arabic movies there every once in a while, and some Spanish language films as well. You know, whatever they could do to get some people in there without, you know, trying to get it up to code, I guess. So eventually it closed completely. They did a bunch of renovations in the early 80s, and it reopened like in late 82, and it became a revival house in 1983. And then through the 80s, they would show these every night. They would show a different double feature of older movies or second-run movies, black and white movies, and it became a really great revival house where you would get the monthly Music Box schedule, and each night they would have a different double feature, and you'd go, well, I'm going to go see that, I'm going to go see this. I remember going to see a bunch of double features there. And, you know, like all the time, my friends and I in the 80s would go there to see the double features. It was that theater and another dump that reopened called the Parkway, which was on Diversey and Clark. That is now an optical shop around the corner from the Landmark Century theaters. But there was this theater called the Parkway, and that was a fucking dump in the 70s. And I saw a bunch of movies there in the 70s. And then they reopened as a revival house as well. And so the Parkway and the Music Box, I don't know if they might have been run by the same company, became these revival houses. So for years, it was a revival house. And then they would do midnight shows, and they would start to show specialty movies. In 1991, they added the second theater. There's that second small theater to the right of the lobby of the Music Box, and they opened it up in 1991, and then they updated it for digital projection later. And during the renovations, they took out a few seats. It used to be a 100-seat theater. The second theater now is a 75-seat theater, and they did they did rehab on the theater itself. And they've changed things, they've added things. But some of the memories that I have about going there were, you know, seeing all the movies, the great double features, the revival house in the 80s, where I would go there and see a bunch of stuff. When I worked at the Jewel right across the street for years in the 80s when they reopened, and they were a revival house during that period through the 80s into the early 90s. That whole time I was working at the Jewel across the street, and the guys who were running it when it was sort of independently owned, the guys who ran it first of all, the Music Box had the best popcorn ever, and still has amazing popcorn. But there was a period of time where you would go to the Music Box just to get popcorn. There were people who would just go get popcorn and leave. And that's still the case. They have magnificent popcorn there. But there was a time when it was just like in the city, like there are other places where you can get great popcorn now, but there was a time when the Music Box was the place to get great movie theater popcorn. And they used real butter. They made a pride, they made a point of that. You go to an AMC or a corporate movie theater, it's not butter, it's just a bunch of oily shit that they put on the popcorn. It's delicious, but it's not real butter. And I used to work at the Jewel across the street on South Park, and I can vouch for it, because I worked the dairy department. I was a dairy manager at Jewel. And those son of a bitches, every time I would see these two guys who ran the Music Box, they would come in with a cart, and I would see them walking towards my dairy department, and I'd be like, okay, they're going to clean me out of butter. And they would. And I would say hi to them. I knew them because I visited the Music Box all the time. And I was the dairy guy, and I knew to order extra butter, when need be, because they would come in to the Southport Jewel and just take sticks of butter, like 4-stick packages of butter, and load up their cart with it, like piles and boxes of quartered butter to bring across the street to put on the popcorn. One of my favorite memories, they would wipe out the butter section of my dairy department at Jewel on Southport to put on the popcorn. So it was real butter. That wasn't bullshit. It was a real thing. And since then, they've made a lot of changes, and they now have a cafe and a lounge next door and a garden. They do all kinds of great programming now, where now it's a first-run house. They're showing Licorice Pizza there now, and they show first-run movies and foreign movies and independent movies. They've distributed movies now. The Music Box Theater, the Music Box is now a distribution company for indie films and foreign movies. They have, a film company that they work with. They do virtual cinema for people who are not comfortable going to movies yet because of the pandemic. They have this virtual cinema program that you can join up with, and you can enjoy what they offer in the theater at home. It's a great program. Just check out musicboxtheater.com for all the info, and you can check out the schedule. The schedule is beautiful. They change it all the time. They do really amazing things there. Like, for instance, I saw a trailer. They're showing a brand new 35mm print of The Conversation, which is Francis Ford Coppola's best movie. That's going to be on the big screen, 35mm print. They do great programming there and bring back great old movies and great new movies. They host the Chicago Critics Film Festival every year now that my buddies, Steve Procopi, who, by the way, who works for the Music Box Theater and has for a few years now, is a great guy. Eric Childress and Brian Tallarico, all the guys who put together the Chicago Critics Film Festival every year, they do it at the Music Box. They do the Gay and Lesbian Film Festival there. They've hosted the Chicago International Film Festival there. They do incredible midnight shows there. And they have, The Room with Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero became like a legendary place to see that movie. They do interactive Rocky Horror Picture Show stuff. During the holidays, they just did the sing-alongs with It's a Wonderful Life and White Christmas with the pipe organ and Christmas music. And they have all these great festivities year-round, great festivals, great things. They do the 70mm Fest, which is magnificent. Every year, they bring in a giant screen that they put in front of the regular screen. They put a big, giant screen in order to accommodate the big 70mm film prints that they show. And they show movies in 70mm, and if you've never experienced a movie in 70mm, it's magnificent. Not only is it beautiful and it's film, and it's not digital, it's not a computer image, it's actual celluloid, it's 70mm celluloid. That makes a huge difference. I might sound like a snob, but seeing a film in 70mm film and celluloid is magnificent. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful experience. And every year, the Music Box hosts a fantastic 70mm film festival where they show new movies and classic movies all on film, on celluloid, through a projector, threaded 70mm films. And that's what they're doing with Licorice Pizza right now. Licorice Pizza, they have a 70mm print at the Music Box right now of Licorice Pizza. They've put up the giant, beautiful 70mm screen to accommodate it, and it was magnificent. I just got home from it. It was one of the best movie experiences I've had in a long time, especially because we've all been stuck, not going to movies as much anymore. But my God. And they care about their customers. You have to have a vaccination card or proof of a negative COVID test to get into the theater. You got to have your vaccination card. You got to have an ID, picture ID. and proof of vaccination, and you have to wear a mask. You have to wear a mask all the time. Not when you just walk in, you sit down and take it off. You can only take it off if you're actively eating. Once you take that bite of popcorn, you put the mask back on. Everybody in the theater is vaxxed. Everybody who works there is vaxxed, and every single person who is brought into the theater must wear a mask. They care, and it's safe there. They make it as safe as you can possibly be in these days to go to a movie. You'll feel safe going to the Music Box because everybody in there has proof of vaccination and is wearing a mask, which is the way it should be at all theaters, but it's not. But they do that because they care, and that's the beautiful thing about the Music Box. They give a shit. They give a shit about the experience. They care about the projection. They care about the sound. They care about the movies that they show. They show varied and interesting movies. They show great movies and shitty movies, and they have fun with their programming. And they do it all year round, and now, they weathered the storm going through COVID during the lockdown. They started the virtual cinema program, which they still do, because there are a lot of people who aren't really sure about going to movies yet. And yet you can have that movie experience, that Music Box experience at your home now, virtually. So they care, and that's the difference. The people who run the Music Box give a shit. Everybody who works there knows what they're doing, knows what they're saying. They've got a great drink menu if you want to have some cocktails before or after a movie at the lounge. They've got food. They've got great popcorn, and it's just a great facility. It's still beautiful. Great, beautiful lobby. Great, beautiful theater with the stars on the ceiling. If you want to have a beautiful cinematic experience, we are absolutely blessed to have the Music Box Theater. And I don't work for the Music Box Theater. I know people who work there, and I'm friends with a lot of people who work there. I don't get a paycheck from them. This is not just some sort of like I'm being paid to say this. I love movies. I love cinema. And I am so unbelievably happy that I can go to the Music Box Theater as a Chicagoan and have an experience, a cinematic experience that's bar none. And I've been lucky enough to be a part of the Music Box experience. I introduced Phantasm there on its anniversary. When it got remastered, I introduced the print and told some great stories. I've introduced other movies. I've been a part of other things. I had a wonderful time with Dan Epstein, the author of great 70s baseball books. He signed his new book, and we did a presentation of the Bad News Bears there, where we introduced the movie together, and then I interviewed him afterwards. A great, beautiful, 35 millimeter print of Bad News Bears. And so many other special things, horror movies. I was a part of the 24-hour Music Box of Horrors, and the Music Box Massacre, as it used to be known when it was run by Rusty Nails all back those years. I've been a participant in that, and I've slept in that theater during those 24-hour horror movie marathons. I've slept in the theater before they got the new seats. I've spent hours and hours in that theater. So just what they do is they care. The programming is great. You can see beautiful, great foreign movies there. I saw the best movie I've seen all year, besides Licorice Pizza. I also saw at the Music Box an incredible Japanese movie called Drive My Car, which played exclusively at the Music Box. And it's an incredible movie, one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. And I saw it at the Music Box. So the experiences that I've had there, the care that they put into the programming, the fact that they distribute hard to find independent foreign movies, and that they care enough about the kind of great old films that they show and interesting and fun programming. The Music Box is just it's a blessing. It's a gift to anybody. The movie, by the way, that I'm wearing, this T-shirt, I saw it at the Music Box, 35 millimeter print, and it was amazing. A 70 millimeter print, in fact, so. Anyway, I just wanted to say I just got back from seeing Licorice Pizza once again in 70 millimeter on the beautiful big screen at the Music Box Theater. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. It was a beautiful cinematic experience. And then just as a side note, I ran into my old friend from WGN, the great Kathy O'Malley. I ran into her there, and I got to see her and her grandson there, and they were there to see it. And, we talked a little bit. It was great to catch up with them and to see all the people who were having a great time. Everybody wearing masks, everybody vaxxed. Everybody's seeing a magnificent Paul Thomas Anderson movie in 70 millimeter in a beautiful, beautiful theater on a chilly night in Chicago. I walked out of that theater and I couldn't have been happier. And that happens a lot when I go to the Music Box. I usually walk in there and I look around and go, God damn it, this place is amazing. And then after the movie, even if it's a bad movie, I walk out and I go, this place is amazing. So from the outside, the beauty of the outside, the marquee, everything there, to the beauty of the inside, to the way they run it, to the care that goes into what they do at the Music Box Theater. We're fucking blessed to have that place. So check out musicboxtheater.com. Their schedule is always interesting and always great. Their programming is amazing, and they care about you. You will be safe there. Mask up, get your Vax card, go see some movies, and have a great time. Anyway, thank you, Music Box Theater, for great film experiences. Great history. It was a shithole when I was growing up in the 70s, but it's not anymore. So anyway, Music Box Theater rules. That's it. Thanks.